You're in the midst of a negative publicity cycle for the Winnipeg Jets. They're not getting many fans attending their home games towards the end of the 2023-24 season. But in this podcast, we want to be talking about the good times of the Winnipeg Jets. Of course, that's got to be when they came in the WHA back in 1972. Now, the Winnipeg Jets were a pro ice hockey team based in Winnipeg, the original incarnation, which lasted for 24 years until 1996. They began playing in the WHA in 72. The club joined the NHL in 79 after the NHL merged with the WHA. Due to mounting financial trouble, the 96 the franchise moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and became the Phoenix Coyotes, now the Arizona Coyotes. The team played their home games in Winnipeg at the venerable Winnipeg Arena. Now, on December 71, 2 days after Christmas, Winnipeg was granted one of the founding franchises in the WHA. A lot of people felt that if the World Hockey Association was going to succeed, it needed a Central Canada location and something that was connected with international hockey. The original owner was Ben Hatskin, a local figure who made his wealth in cardboard shipping containers. The squad took their name from the Winnipeg Jets of the Western Canada Hockey League, but also maybe the Golden Jet Bobby Hull, which they got from Chicago to play in Winnipeg, had something to do with it. The Jets' first signing was the great Norm Baudouin, earning the player the moniker, or Baudin, as you want to pronounce it, of the original Jet, while the first major signing was again the Golden Jet Bobby Hull. Hull's acquisition, partially financed by the rest of the WHA teams in the $1 million range, gave the league instant credibility and paved the way for other NHL stars to bolt to the upstart league. Sanderson, J.C. Tremblay, Jerry Pender, Jerry Cheevers, a whole bunch. Now, the Jets were the first North American club to seriously explore Europe as a source of hockey talent. Numerous European stars moved from their Western Europe bases to the Jets. Winnipeg's fortunes were bolstered again by Swedish forwards Anders Hedberg and Ulf Nielsen, who starred with Hull on the WHA's most famous and successful forward line, nicknamed the Hot Line. For many, this was the second greatest line of the decade, between a tie with Lemaire Chatelefleur and Robert Perreault and Martin. He also picked up defenseman Lars-Erik Sjoberg, which I featured on the channel recently, who would serve as the team's captain and win accolades as the WHA's best defenseman. Behind these players and other European stars included Willie Lindstrom, Kent Nielsen, Vela-Pekka Katola, 11 by players such as Peter Sullivan, Norm Baudin, and goaltender Joe Daly. The Jets were the most successful team in a short-lived WHA, more than the Houston Aeros and the Quebec Nordiques, who had 3 titles between them. The team made the finals in 5 of the WHA's 7 seasons, winning the Avco World Cup trophy 3 times, including the league's final season against Wayne Gretzky and the Dave Dryden backstop Edmonton Oilers. Other notable accomplishment was the Jets' key 5-3 victory over the Soviet national team on January 5th, 78, which ironically made them the number 1 world team that year. The Soviet team were quite strong in that campaign, and he showed that at the World Championships that year. Now, in the WHA's last season, Kent Nielsen, a future star with the Flames franchise, scored 107 points, while Morris Lukowich had 65 goals, and Peter Sullivan had 46 goals and 86 points as a bonus baby. Now, during the Avco Cup finals, Gary Smith gave up the last goal in WHA history to Dave Semenko in a 7-3 Jets win. Of course, he ended up, after so many years in the NHL and the WHA, and back to the NHL the next year with Winnipeg. Now, that year was the end of the franchise, but the stats were here. Most games played for the Jets, Bobby Hull 411, 303 goals, ladies and gentlemen. Assists, Ulf Nielsen 344. Total points, Bobby Hull 638. Penalty minutes, Kim Claxton 413. Goalie wins, Joe Daly 167. And shutouts total, Joe Daly 12. Now the 76, 78, and 79 Avco Cup winning Winnipeg Jets were inducted into the Manitoba Hockey Hall of Fame in the team category, so multiple Hall of Fame inductions. Now by 1979, the vast majority of the WHA's teams had folded, but the Jets were still going strong. After the campaign, the Jets were absorbed in the NHL along with the Nordiques, Oilers, and the Hartford Whalers, who are now the Carolina Hurricanes. Pre-merger interleague exhibitions had shown that the 79 Jets were the competitive equal of most NHL teams, with the possible exceptions of the Stanley Cup champion Montreal Canadiens and the rising New York Islanders. However, the Jets had to pay a high price for a berth in a more established league. They had to give up 3 of their top 6 scorers, the core of the last WHA champion, in the reclamation draft. They were also forced to draft 18 out of 21 teams. In the draft, they opted to protect defenseman Scott Campbell, who had shown a good deal of promise in the last WHA season. However, Campbell suffered from chronic asthma that was only exacerbated by Winnipeg's frigid weather. The asthma drove him out of the league entirely by 82. Now, upon entering the NHL, the Jets were based in the Smythe division of the Campbell Conference. However, with a decimated roster, the Jets finished dead last in the league for the first 2 seasons in the NHL. I can't tell you how many games they lost combined, but it was more than 100. Including a horrendous 9-1 season in 81, this still ranks as the worst in Jets Coyotes history. This stands in marked contrast to the other 79 Avco Cup finalists, the Oilers, who went on to dominate the league during the second half of the 80s, but again, they got a chance to protect Wayne Gretzky. Now, the Jets' first 2 wretched NHL seasons did net them high draft picks. In 1980, they took Dave Babbage, second overall in 81, and in 81 they drafted future Hall of Famer, the late great Dale Hawerchuk, first overall. The team developed a solid core of players in the mid-80s, with Hawerchuk, the great Thomas Steen, Paul McLean, Randy Carlyle, former Pittsburgh and Toronto, Laurie Boschman, formerly of Toronto, Doug Smale and Dave Ellett, providing a strong nucleus. Also in 81, a league-wide realignment placed the Jets with the league's other Central Time Zone teams in the North Division, which over the course of a decade would become the weakest division in the league. Now, led by Hawerchuk, Steen, Babbage, and Carlisle, the Jets returned to respectability very quickly and made the playoffs 11 times in the next 15 years. Of course, no jet lag. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very interesting start. We can tell you the many, many stories about the Winnipeg Jets. We've done so far. Also, the time that during a fight, someone ripped off Bobby Hull's wig in a somewhat scuffle. The idea of the Jets playing the Russians and basically having European teams count their games against WHA teams count in the regular season. The 1977 loss to the Nordiques, which probably legitimized the WHA more than any other thing, because with the Nordiques, the Oilers, and the Jets, they kept the league going, and the only reason why the merger worked is because this was an untapped fan base from an NHL standpoint, because 2 Alberta teams and 1 Manitoba team were not in the NHL at that time. It was Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. People wanted a change of pace. Winnipeg, I've always been fascinated with them because they always overachieved. Are one of the hardest working teams in show business. And let me tell you something, the amount of quality goalies that pass through Winnipeg is just totally amazing. Even secondary goalies, I've done many podcasts here. I think 40 NHL caliber goalies came through the Winnipeg system in the 1970s and 80s, either reclamation from the NHL or new prospects from the WHA to the NHL. Just outstanding. And like the heart of every Jets fan, Dale Hawerchuk, he physically took punishment and bled for that team, just like so Joe Sakic in Quebec, just like Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh. And the only negativity is he never won a Stanley Cup, but with Calgary and Edmonton and Vancouver in the mix, it was pretty tough. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of the start of the original Winnipeg Jets. If you like what you're doing here or our Winnipeg podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.